You're in an interesting niche space. I'm going to call it co-living space. Tell the people about kind of that space, what's going on, and some of the companies have gone in and out of that. How you doing? Good to see you.
No, Latin me.
You've been working out on me, haven't you?
No, smaller shirts.
That's how you do it.
See, that's a good one.
Got some good merchandise. Got some funny slogans, such as "Always Settle." Is it true that you wore the "Always Settle" shirt to your rehearsal dinner, and how did that go for you?
It's true. My wife was a good sport about it, especially when I basically let her know that, oh no, this is a reflection of your prerogative.
Oh.
That you've settled because I've obviously married up.
And
everyone
I was going to
knows
say
this.
how you described it, because I heard some rumors that it didn't go well for you, but tell me more.
No, it was good. It was good. We, obviously we did our walkthrough, and then we had everybody, all the wedding party and everything in the space, and then we went and had our little dinner, and it was about with 301. People kind of looking at me funny because Lauren is obviously dressed up in a white getup, and I'm this clown.
Did you have a jacket?
During the rehearsal walkthrough, and then at dinner, it went straight Always Settle.
You went on straight to it.
And my mom just looked at me and just shook her head. But I was like, no, Mom, I'm just reflecting Lauren's thoughts. And she's like, oh, no, that's fair.
That's fun. Well done. Well, thanks for, that's good promotion for us. You're wearing to a rehearsal dinner? That's impressive. You're in an interesting niche space, as one of the many things you do, but I'm going to call it co-living space or group housing. Tell the people about kind of that space, what's going on, and some of the companies have gone in and out of that.
My background coming from co-working was creating an environment for productivity, and also being a business, we wanted to create something that was sticky and viable enough to maintain our tenants in the space by providing not just, programming and overlays for them to have a happy hour, have a speaker series, but we really wanted to have design be part of that implementation. A lot of the...
Back then, make offices, gorgeous.
There it was.
I will say, we were there, and it was amazing. First time I ever walked in there, I was meeting another client. I wasn't there. I was like, this is really nice. How did you afford this? How many companies were in there at one time?
I think that space had 142 offices, but the total roster roll, I think at our high point, was something like 200 plus because of desks, like the open desks, the virtual offices, the whole 9 yards. We had 200 plus kind of using that space as their, HQ.
Yep.
But then when you think about the 180 offices, we had office sizes from 1 desk to 14 desks.
Yep.
So I think you guys were in two persons or something along the line, looking out over what will be Mr. Days again, by the way.
Oh, really? Didn't know
They're
that.
taking over the Pine Moor, which took over Clarendon Grill.
Okay.
So throwing back to Arlington.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
this is good.
He's coming back. He's doing the same deal. I think it should be August. But that description that you had, when you walked into the space and you were, wowed is a nice way to put it, but that is the same kind of finish and level of, expectation that we're having towards these new products that we're delivering.
Yep.
You put it into like a co-living bucket, which, we're not necessarily doing the flexibility of the leases that they would do 3 month and then turn month to month leases after that. They were able to, sneak around DC, tenant laws and things because they called them memberships. We're still doing leases. Everything that we're doing, from the design to the layout to the finishes, there are Carrara marble floors. We're doing the quartz countertops. We're having counter depth refrigerator appliances and full overlay cabinets to the ceiling with, we're thinking about things like storage. We're thinking about things like flow. We obviously are thinking of things like location.
Yeah.
And what we wanted to do was, everyone that is from DC or maybe has been in a quote unquote group home in DC, like one of those big honkers in DuPont that's, hasn't been renovated in 40 years. We're trying to make that, but an elevated version of that. And, keeping in mind the cost of living in DC, median rents, I think, are $22.60 and some change for a 1 bedroom. You get into a roommate scenario where, maybe you'll find a $3,000 a month 2 bedroom. Then you add your utilities, you add your parking, you're still up at that $1,900 a month mark.
Yeah.
Our focus and target is trying to be around the $1,300 per room, all in, inclusive the whole kit and caboodle. Some level of utility share among the groups, but we want this to be a place that mid-20s up to mid-30s, they want to feel that this is as good or better than they were expecting.
Yeah.
And that alone, on first glance, gets them to sign on the dotted line.
Yep.
And then with the flow and kind of design and floor plans that we've created, like giving people wings and having very similar to co-working, where we have our we spaces in the center where you can have collaborative collisions or what have you with the kitchens or anything else within the residence. And then your me spaces are separate, including ensuite baths and things like that, just to kind of like the co-working, where we had all of our exteriors ringed with the offices, and then the core was where everybody would go get coffee, everybody would go get beer.
That's cool. So you had mentioned group housing. Is there a name right now that people are calling this?
Everyone is kind of leaning into co-living. When I first started getting into this world outside of co-working, when I moved into co-living, everyone thinks it is young, fratty, sorority kind of setup. I think when we had started working with Common, who recently filed for bankruptcy, but when we were leasing out with Common, the median age for the tenants was around 32.
Yep.
And that was interesting for me.
Sure.
But you figure now with folks being able to work from anywhere, it's not necessarily like people are getting married later, people having children later.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for folks to continue living the glory years of college. But some people legitimately like having roommates. And like people are social animals.
Yep.
And trying to avoid some of that like social isolation that we're starting to feel with the young, the youth, everything with social media, everything with technology. You're not really getting that interaction anymore. Like, I'll just call, I'll FaceTime, I'll text him. Like, we used to go and be like, okay, let's meet at the bar on Sunday and watch football. Never watching football, but like that's where we would catch up in person.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's still happening as much, but if we can kind of create an environment where it promotes a little bit more just interaction, human interaction. I think that is another value add.
Sure.
On top of saving money.
If some people go, hey, I'm going to work somewhere for 6 months or a year, I mean, that'd be a pretty cool place. You got your own room and own bathroom. You can meet some people.
Yeah.
That's a cool concept.
Nowadays, it's hard to meet people. And this will kind of give them an easy avenue of like, oh, well, if I need to meet some people my own age or just meet some people in this city, well, I'm going to build that in for them. So
makes sense.
I'm still the one being the face and the front of everything in regards to like finding and building the groups within the spaces. We have one in Petworth, there's one in Shaw, we're finishing one up in Columbia Heights, and like actively going to be doing some more, whether they be new builds or transitioning some, like I said, Big Berthas into proper finished, nicely finished spaces. But it's something that the investment group that I'm working with, they really want to scale. They really believe in it. It's something that is adjacent but still close enough to what I've done and know that I can add value, not just in the programming part of it, but the design, like being able to create the floor plans, being like, okay, we know that 7.5 feet wide in a bedroom is too tight. Like this bad boy's got to be at least 8'2", because we know that a full bed is 54. Add a headboard. There's a lot of nuance, kind of like with the co-working spaces. We had to custom create desks.
It's interesting, right? There's certain life cycles, or I think there's something which is you get into something too early, like you pave the way before people understand it. Is that what you would say happened to Common, or do you think it was mismanagement of funds, or like what happened in that situation?
I think ultimately their pro formas that they were giving to investors were not based in reality. So I remember when we were doing some of their build outs locally, like up near the 930 Club, I think part of the pro forma for the build out, they were anticipating these 9'2" by 9' rooms with built-in closets that were also headboards. They were anticipating $2,100 a room. And I was like, that's insanity. Like, there's no way. So they move forward. It exists, but pop fizz right now. But I think that under promise, over deliver was kind of their downfall. And just trying to create fiction to basically raise more money. And it's just, of course, there's a certain velocity of number of bedrooms or number of doors or whatever the moniker is. But I think it was just a little creative accounting is a bad way to put it, but it was just a little, somebody wasn't doing the math.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Which, in a sense, was similar to probably WeWork's issue and a lot of people in space.
Too big, too fast, right? You said it,
Going back to Make, like I said, beautiful place. You had a lot of business going in there. COVID hit, probably the worst timing in the history of business. Never saw that one coming. Is that kind of what took down Make?
I mean,
at the end of it?
ultimately, I think we'll call it the end of 2019.
Yeah.
We were at just over like 2.2 or 2.3 million a month in revenue.
Yeah.
COVID hit, we dipped to like 500, high 400s.
Yeah.
And it was so early on because, again, it's not like we weren't a large corporation with backing to pay rents moving forward, even if people weren't showing up.
Of course.
Our business was reliant upon our subleases or our membership agreements that we had given to all of our tenants. So with no money coming in, I don't know what way to pay that.
Yeah, that goes real quick.
Now, like what WeWork has done successfully, they've managed to like renegotiate a lot of their leases.
Yep.
This was so early on, landlords were like, no, pay us money.
I remember. I mean, they weren't renegotiating for quite a while.
That's it.
And so they held very stern on that. Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things where you can have a great idea, you can actually execute really well, and luck matters, right? I mean, timing matters. I've had the situation. I had an obstacle race that we had. Guys 6 months before us, they sold for $80 million. Yeah. We had ours growing the exact same amount. They saw that the $80 million wasn't working out well.
Oh, no.
And then we couldn't sell ours.
Right.
It's the timing, those details, even if you have great execution, great ideas, sometimes it just doesn't matter.
I mean, like that, we kind of fell victim to that exact same thing because now if you look at Industrious, Industrious has been taking over WeWork spaces and they're doing very well.
Yeah, and so they're, in a sense, WeWork yourselves were a little too early. It goes back to that comment before. Now they're getting these great deals on things. And
they were able to renegotiate because, I mean, they had the coffers to weather a storm.
Yeah.
Where with us, we never had actually raised any kind of significant funds.
Yep.
We were basically being managed, like oversight was through the property ownership and management group MRP that we had partnered with initially. Yep. And they themselves were trying to chase down rents from their tenants.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a perfect commercial real estate storm.
Sure.
Where, we were not necessarily low fruit, but at the time, we don't know if the world's ever going to open again.
Yeah.
We're reliant on people coming to work, which is still a big thing.
Sure.
So we were the first to get cut.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're still a member of the down there, even though we're on the 6th floor of that building. And so Industrious, I'm guessing they've been there for a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, something like that. And what I thought was interesting was that thing has been empty until about maybe 4 months ago. So, I thought people would come back and whatever, and just it took so long for people to come back.
Yeah.
It takes time for people to get reused to things or get used to trends, that kind of thing. So talking about commercial space. So many companies are, even though people have gone back to work, a lot of them are I just don't need what I used to need. What is going to happen in the commercial space?
MC actually leads a nation in office to residential conversions.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact number of projects that are going on, but I think we are 3 or 4x higher than any other state or any other city rather in the U.S.
Interesting.
And it's not for, obviously New York is having its own little renaissance of rents are coming back, tenants are coming back, etc. But with us, I think part of not the ease because that simplifies it too much, but we have a height restriction. There's only so tall that you can go, and with some of the setbacks and everything based off of 16th Street or what have you, it gives you a little more opportunity to have windows because you need egress and natural light and things like that. I personally believe that co-working will have a bigger piece of the pie as larger corporations start dumping their 30,000 square foot spaces. Sure. There is hoteling going on for everywhere from law firms to tech to just name it. It's overhead at that point. And again, if we had been able to weather it, we would be we have a different conversation entirely, right? It'll be interesting to see when these conversions start delivering, where the demand is for these things. Because again, once it's very similar to, when you're doing your pro formas for bedrooms with common, what are these pro formas and these underwriting numbers for these bedrooms anticipated to be on K Street, on L Street, in the middle of the CBD, where there isn't a lot of infrastructure to be a human being. Sure, you've got a Trader Joe's and a Whole Foods and a Foggy Bottom, but once you're over at 22nd and K, what's there, right? What are you doing? Or you speak over to 11th and G. You're kind of getting into Chinatown, but what does this demand look like for these conversions? And, yes, we have a shortage of housing, but will they then lower prices to actually create that demand? Or are they just going to hold on to it like some of the apartments now? Be like, no, it's still, $2,600 for a one bedroom, but we'll give you, 1/12 of a month free. Like, what is that giving you, right?
I agree. So I thought co-working might be a good investment like a year ago. There's someone that's going to come out of it doing well in the co-working space. That's a large company. I don't even know. Are there public companies you can invest in besides WeWork in that space?
I don't know if Industrious is publicly traded yet, but that would be, at least in the U.S., I think that is the second largest.
Yeah.
So
we got your passion project, let's call it, co-living. But, you're by trade, you're a real estate agent. How do you differentiate yourself, in your business?
Other than, everyone will talk about, I research, I run facts and figures, numbers, I'm running CMAs, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, those are important. I'm not diminishing the value of those by any stretch. One thing that, at least in my 5 years of doing this, a lot of my clients have found value in the fact that renovations are right in my wheelhouse. I've done everything from, silly stuff, paint, to full gut renovations on historic houses. I think in the past year we've done 3, basically full gut renos.
When you say we, like your company is leading the renovation?
Yeah, so basically I've had these relationships with this group of brothers, very similar to the HVAC guys, but it's a group of brothers, it's 3 of them that will do anything and everything, whether it is the non-permit, we need to change out a bunch of faucets and for listing prep, right? I'm changing out, I'm conscious about this stuff. We already talked about me making custom desks to try to save 4 inches on each end. There's value in having those relationships for sure. I'm so lucky to have these guys, but having delved into the renovation side, not only just for my clients, but on a personal level with investments in my own personal residences, that aspect of being able to help a buyer when we walk into a house.
For you being able to provide high-end, low-end estimates, that kind of thing pretty quick, that's a big deal. When you did that, how did you market that to consumers? How many people did you get? And would you do it for our YouTube channel? Because I think that would be great content that people would want.
It's interesting content, right? Because a lot of this, and just, sadly real estate as a whole, a lot of it is kind of black box, where people just don't know. Unless you were in it, you have little to no clue.
Sure.
A standard buyer, let's say we have a lawyer and a school teacher. They don't know anything about an accessory dwelling. They don't even know the acronym.
Yeah.
But that could be the difference between them being able to afford a monthly, squeaking out $1,200 downstairs from, whoever they rent it out to, or even possibly Airbnb if they want to play Superhost. But they need to have it with above board. A lot of folks that, going back to the post that I made, it was a lot of DMs where they were asking a lot of questions, and no stupid questions, just legitimate. Oh, well, I didn't realize you didn't know that. I should have and will cover that at some point. It was really interesting. Those are still my highest viewed things, but it was just interesting to see how little people knew about that side of things, right? And to your point of oh, well, can I build up? Well, it depends on your zoning. Can I build back? Depends on your lot coverage. There's a lot of nuance that, especially folks that don't know and they go and get bids without having an understanding of it, you can get taken. Oh yeah, sure, we'll build that. $250,000. How? What are you using, gold studs?
Exactly. All right, so we got a little rapid fire questions for you. What's your favorite room to renovate in a house?
Kitchen.
Why?
There are so many ways to make the space more user-friendly and efficient that your mind would be blown.
Least favorite room to renovate?
Basement. No basements were made initially to be furnished spaces. It was always the storage room, the mechanical room.
That's interesting.
So the level of lift needed to make it appropriate. Ugh.
Yeah, the underpinning.
That too, Jesus.
I did a house flip in DC, man. That underpinning.
That was labor cost right there.
That was very expensive. I think, one time we were going to do 8 feet, which is if you're going to do it, you might as well go 9.
Sure.
And we did it.
Sure.
We went to 9 and definitely opened up the space. But man, that was expensive. If you could add one feature to every home you sell, what would it be?
Heated floors and bathrooms.
Why?
It's so cheap.
Really?
And so easy. And it is, I will never, ever not have heated floors on a tile ever again.
First of all, one of my friends is a builder. He told me he did it. He said it's the greatest thing ever.
Yep.
I'm really upset because I did a whole renovation. I didn't think about it.
See, you should call me, Lanny.
I should have called you. It was a while ago. What's the first thing someone moving to DC should do to settle in quickly?
Get an Airbnb, in this case a little bit different, but like when you're in the space, be in the space. Do not turn the television on. Go out to dinner every night. Go out to lunch every night. Walk around the space. Just generally familiarize with yourself with the neighborhood, because it may not be the one you want or thought it was.
Yeah.
So.
So you're saying get the Airbnb before you buy.
Oh, for sure.
And then explore.
If you have the opportunity and the flexibility,
yeah.
Get 2 or 3 nights. Literally, just don't turn the television on.
That's a good, so you would learn about a railroad going through your backyard that you might not
never know.
What's your favorite feature of the Compass app?
User interface. Whenever I have buyers and I meet with them, I basically let them know that I'm going to set the filters to a concierge level service, which means that I am the filter.
What's your favorite part of working with buyers?
Being able to take folks that don't know about renos, they don't know costs, they don't know the options, and being, as soon as we walk into a space, being like, oh, this kitchen is closed off. Do we need to keep it closed off? Do you not want it closed off? Or, I know this carpet sucks, but if you wanted to do something for the puppy that's a little more scratch resistant than a hardwood floor, let's put LVP down and it's this many dollars a foot.
What's one thing about you that might surprise your clients?
I didn't rent my first place until I was 32, and it was only for 1 year.
Yep.
Because I had convinced my parents my junior year of college to buy a condo instead of paying for student housing. Didn't like the idea that I was paying somebody else's note, and jumped back into home ownership.
That's a good way to educate yourself and become an agent. It's gonna work. That's it, bud. We
That's
got
all
it all.
We did it.
We got it all.
Look at that.
Thanks for being here.
Of course,
It's good to see you.